The Auditor General's report provides a comprehensive review of how public funds are being spent, or in many cases, misspent. Based on audits conducted between 2020 and 2024, a period that saw 3 changes in government, the National Audit Department, or NAD, flagged serious governance failures, flawed procurement processes, and systemic inefficiencies involving over 48 billion ringgit across multiple ministries and government agencies. Let me break it down for you. First up, the report recommends a review and possible end of the pre-qualification procurement system, which was initially introduced in 2023 by the Ministry of Finance to fast-track project approvals. The system was meant to filter out unqualified bidders before the tender stage, but the audit found that poor implementation and failure to follow its rules have resulted in problematic contractors being shortlisted, ultimately undermining transparency and competition. An audit covering 71 projects worth 20.1 billion ringgit across 3 ministries found that the system did not achieve its intended objectives. Among others, the Ministry of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, or PETRA, approved 6 firms that submitted no documents and 7 others without necessary certifications. In another case, the Ministry of Rural and Regional Development awarded a 40.1 million ringgit project to a company that did not meet the financial criteria. The NAD also criticized the existing policies on subsidized cooking oil as not comprehensive and poorly targeted. Turns out, it's not reaching the people who actually need it. The policy's lack of clearly defined qualification requirements has enabled non-citizens, restaurants, and even manufacturers to buy subsidized cooking oil in bulk, undermining the program's original aim of easing the cost of living for low and middle-income Malaysian households. Even worse, the government continues to rely on a fixed monthly quota of 60,000 metric tons, which was set 9 years ago and never updated. The NAD said this outdated quota no longer reflects current consumption patterns, contributing to supply mismatches and inconsistent availability in the retail market. Between 2019 and February 2025, the government spent 10.88 billion ringgit on the cooking oil subsidy program. Yet despite this sizable investment, the audit warns that without clearer rules and a more targeted delivery mechanism, the intended impact of the subsidy will remain diluted. The report also raised flags over Felcra, a government-linked plantation agency which spent 241 million ringgit acquiring oil palm estates between 2022 and 2024. One estate in Sabah was acquired despite internal objections in view of the poor soil conditions and challenging terrain. 3 other estates in Kelantan were approved hastily within 12 days without proper scrutiny. Unsurprisingly, to date, the acquisitions have failed to generate expected returns for Felcra. Over at the Defence Ministry, 70 armoured vehicles were delivered late, some by more than 2 years. Although the government paid the full 7.5 billion ringgit contract value, penalties worth over 160 million ringgit were only issued more than 2 years after the contract expired. And these penalties have not been collected, reflecting weaknesses in enforcement and oversight. All in, the Auditor General flagged serious issues across 7 ministries involving 48 billion ringgit in government projects. The only good news out of this is that over 150 million ringgit has been recovered in penalties and taxes, thanks to the NAD's expanded powers under the Amended Audit Act. But the broader message is clear. Despite repeated warnings in successive AG reports over the years about the misuse of public funds, the underlying systemic issues remain unresolved. So without meaningful structural reforms in procurement and subsidy management, public funds will remain vulnerable to misuse.